Do Brighton and Hove Albion have a crisis at the left wing position ahead of the start of the 2025-2026 season? Hello and welcome back to Seagulls Central. My name is Adam MacDonald and thank you so much for returning to my channel. If you have been here before, thank you so much for coming back. If you're new, as I always say, and you've just jumped into this video, you've just come across the channel, I really appreciate you being here. Whether you're a new Brighton fan, an old Brighton fan, returning viewer to the channel, I'm really grateful for you coming. We're building a nice little community. We're growing quickly and I feel like we're really riding a wave, and I'm excited. I'm really excited for the start of the 2025-26 season, which is now just over the best part of a week away. We're sort of talking like 10 days, 9 days time. We're going to be starting our Premier League campaign for the new season, and it's all very exciting. But what it's done is it's opened up a bit of a conversation. Now, not just from myself, I've seen it a lot across social media in the last kind of 24 hours, a conversation emerging around Brighton's options at left wing going into this season and how well prepared are we. Of course, in recent years, the last 2-3 years, we all know it as well as each other, Kaoru Mitoma has been the guy. He's been the man. He's been the guy we've been able to rely on game in, game out. Before that, Leandro Trossard, and even kind of last season, we had various different options, didn't we, at that left wing. This season, things do kind of look a little bit different. I think what's been weird is that for so long we have relied on Kaoru Mitoma as just that guy. And okay, last year we had quite a fluid attack. We were able to play different players in different positions. Gruder could go out wide. Buonanotte in the past has played out wide. We've had Enciso out there. Nothing's really quite the same as that kind of Kaoru Mitoma option. And I wonder whether there is a point in the conversation that has been raised on social media in the last couple of days, talking around the options really that we're going into for the start of this season. I think maybe halfway through the season, things might look a little bit different as we have more established players in the squad, players who are comfortable in the Premier League, who are back fit and fighting. But going into these first kind of 3, 4, 5 games, I do think our left wing position is looking a little bit light. Let's go through it. Let's talk about it. So what are the options? Obviously, number one is Kaoru Mitoma. After that, where do we stand? Okay, so Tommy Watson, brought in from Sunderland, 10 million quid, a left winger. Someone who can really play across the front line. I think he can play in a 10 as well, but I think he has ultimately been brought in as the Kaoru Mitoma kind of competition. A very similar player stylistically to Kaoru Mitoma, a dribbler, a technical player who can get us up the field, who can take players on 1v1. Excellent in that sense, and also a goal scorer. But the trouble is with him, he's not quite fit yet. Our other options, okay, Solly March, mainly really a right winger. I suppose this season will perhaps have a role to play at left wing. I also think at left wing back, when he comes back to be fit, that'll be a role for him as well. But ultimately, we've not seen the best part of him for the best part of 2 years or so. It was kind of October 23 it was, wasn't it, when he got that injury away at Man City. Been coming up to kind of 2 years now, almost like 19 months since then. And he's not really properly back fit. Obviously, we saw him kind of in flashes last season, but it seems like he's had another setback. Other players, Maxim De Kuyper can clearly play in a kind of advanced position. It seems like he's more of a wing back as opposed to a winger. Ferdi Kadioglu, there's an option for him to play there. He's obviously played at left back, a goal scoring left back in the past, a creative left back, but is he an out and out winger? Perhaps not. And then of course Yankuba Minteh, who is going to be our first choice right winger going into the season. Is he going to provide that threat on the left when we need him to? What would we then do on the right wing? How are we looking? I think it is a bit of a problem. Let's talk about Tommy Watson. I think this player, he's obviously a player who has been brought in to provide direct competition to Kaoru Mitoma. The club clearly see him stylistically as very similar, and I can kind of understand that. They are, as I said before, very similar in their style. And in an ideal world, he, alongside Costilas, alongside Seamas, would have been ready to really, hit the ground running in this pre-season and get started in the Premier League. I think it does set all of them back, quite a bit, in the sense that, okay, they might become fit in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but then it's going to take them kind of 3-4 weeks to properly get up to match fitness. By that point, we might be in kind of September time, and they haven't got that momentum under them. It is worrying. I mean, I think is Tommy Watson also ready to contribute now? I think that's a valid question that we need to ask ourselves as Brighton fans. He's obviously a talent, and I'm a player who believes that I'm a fan who believes that he genuinely is a player who's ready to contribute now. I think you see the level he was performing at in the Championship. Okay, in the second half of the season, after his move to Brighton was confirmed, his minutes were reduced slightly, but I do think you can just tell by the quality that he's a player who will suit the Premier League, highly technical. But ultimately, he's completely unproven. I guess the question for Brighton is, going into this season as things stand, and in fact, even if everyone was fit, we only really have one established Premier League proven option at that left wing position. In pretty much every other position on the pitch, you'd like to say there are different options, at least that suit that position. If not, have Premier League experience. Centre-backs, definitely the case. Okay, even when we've brought in a few extra centre-backs who aren't Premier League proven, we've got enough options there, and they all are all genuine centre-backs. Same in central midfield. Up front, yes, there's only Danny Welbeck right now who seems to be Premier League proven, but we have other clear options. There's a clear other number 9 in our squad. In terms of that left wing, he's ready to go. We don't have that. Can you rely on Tommy Watson? If Kaoru Mitoma were to get injured on the 1st of September, could Tommy Watson come in and kind of live up to what we need? Or would we be in a position where we'd have to play keep a Minteh out there, we'd have to play Gruder out there, we'd have to play Rutter out there, fantastic attackers, but ultimately they don't provide that same option that someone like Kaoru Mitoma does. Ferdy Kadioglu, I think, is an interesting conversation to have around him. I think his role this season is going to be very important. It sounds by all accounts like he's had a very good start to pre-season. We obviously didn't get to see him in the Southampton game. He played that one behind closed doors. It looked like he was playing at left back in that game. In an ideal world, I'd like to see him as our starting right back going into next season. Him on the right, De Kuyper on the left. I think he's a really, really nice option. If we were ever to play a back three, I think he'd be a highly suitable candidate for either left wing back or right wing back. I suppose he would maybe be an option at left wing. Again, it's one of those where he's completely untried, completely untested. Would Fabian Hürzeler trust these players? If Kaoru Mitoma got injured tomorrow and we had to start the season, what do I think he'd do? It's quite an interesting question. I think he probably would play. I think he'd probably play Danny Welbeck up front, Minteh on the right. I think Matt O'Reilly would come in the number 10 position and Rutter would play on the left. And I think that would be what he'd do. In an ideal, starting 11 for me, if I was starting the season tomorrow, it'd be similar players to that, except I'd have Rutter in the 10, Mitoma at left wing, and I'd probably drop O'Reilly to the bench despite his very good start to pre-season. Brighton certainly have options, but in terms of a clear standout candidate, I don't know. Solly March played very little football. Ferdy Kadioglu, okay, a good goal scorer, but ultimately I think the left wing back position or even the right side is where he's most effective. I think it was the 22-23 season was one of his best seasons in front of goal. I think I wrote down some stats somewhere. Yeah, 23-24, obviously the year before we came to Brighton. 3 goals and 6 assists from fullback. But that was obviously from fullback. He's not necessarily a winger. Of course, obviously I've written down on my notes as well, Diego Gomez has been a player who's played there as well. But ultimately, I don't think he necessarily has that pace. I don't think he has the gait. I don't think he has the style. He's not a dribbler, is he? He's a very good kind of central midfielder, box-to-box midfielder, technical player, attacking midfielder. I don't think necessarily he's a winger. So I don't know. I think, and this was the other thing I've kind of written actually, is that actually when you look at all the starts that any of these players would have had at left wing last season, okay, Mitoma, he had kind of like at least 30 starts at left wing last season. Solly March, like 1 maybe, if not none. Tommy Watson, none. Minteh, 2 or 3 at left wing, if that. Kadioglu, none. De Kuyper, none. So it is a bit of a risk. The goals and assists that they've produced, obviously Kadioglu with that 3 and 6 in 23-24, De Kuyper 6 and 4 in terms of goals and assists. So they are players who can score goals. Obviously Minteh scoring around 7 or 8 goals last season from right wing. We do have goal scorers in that position, but it's about how we utilise them. And I think it is a bit of an issue. Do I think it's been overstated on social media? Do I think people are reading into it too much? Slightly, but I do think it's a conversation that needs to be had, to be quite honest with you. I think, keeping Mitoma has been a massive part of this season's policy, I believe. I think, when that offer came in January, I think Brighton had to make a decision on what they were going to do with Kaoru Mitoma. Were they going to cash in? Were they going to sell him in the summer? Or were they going to hold firm and ultimately decide that they're not going to get much value out of him? I think there are some players with age profiles and with contributions to the squad where you think actually they are irreplaceable. And I think probably Brighton view Mitoma as that. Whereas someone like João Pedro, a very, very good player, generational talent perhaps in attacking, number 10, number 9 position across world football, felt a bit more replaceable in a weird way. And I do think that we clearly all view Mitoma as slightly irreplaceable. So whenever he is out the side, it's always going to be a difficult one for us and for the team. But I think it's being able to find that option that can come in and kind of provide a good backup. I do think Watson is that. I'm very excited to see Watson. I don't sense we'll see him against Wolfsburg, to be honest. I think we'll probably see, it sounds like we're going to see Bart Verbruggen back. It sounds like we're going to see Costilas and Seamas back. I'm not sure we're necessarily going to see Tommy Watson. I think it would be a shame. Where does that leave him? As I said, because also Kaoru Mitoma is a player who often plays 90 minutes. Would it mean that kind of Watson will have to kind of come on in kind of rogue positions with 10 minutes to go? Maybe. And is that the best introduction to the Premier League when you've also got players like Garuda, Matt O'Reilly, you've got Minteh, you've got Costilas who can play across the front line, Seamas who will be trying to get in any which way. We have options, which I suppose is good for Brighton. But I think for Tommy Watson, it might be a difficult start to the season. I think it's one for us all to keep an eye on. But I do really, really like the idea of having Tommy Watson as a backup left wing, because I think he's very similar to Kaoru Mitoma. And maybe it means we change formation. Maybe if we were ever to lose Mitoma, we'd have to change into a kind of 3-4-3 or something like that. I think it's a conversation worth having. And whilst ultimately my conclusion is I don't think there's a massive, massive problem in the squad. I don't think it is a crisis. I don't think there is a huge problem or gaping hole in the side. I think it's a conversation worth thinking about, because whilst we have a brilliant attack, a deep attack, a varied attack, when you look at purely the profile of player left winger, we don't have huge amounts of options, and I think it is worth talking about. Let me know what you think in the comments. How well prepared are Brighton in their attack going into this season? Is this even a conversation that we need to have? Would Tommy Watson be ready to come in and support Kaoru Mitoma as soon as he's fit? What would you do if Kaoru Mitoma got injured tomorrow? How would you start the season? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you've got this far and you've enjoyed it and you find yourself coming back to my content, please smash a like on this video, hit the subscribe button, get in the comments. I really, really, really appreciate all of you. I'll be back in a couple of days for another Albion update. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you on the next one. And as always, up the Albion.